change out the float inside the float bowl. It's an easy process. You just gotta take off the hoses, so the inlet fuel hose, and then this overflow hose. Just basically undo the flathead screws that hold those together and just set those aside. And then you remove the 3 flathead screws that are on the ones that are holding the top of the bowl to the bowl, and then you remove the whole lid assembly. On my last video, I explained how to service the SU carburetors. Basically, I went through this manual here that I got with my service kit and did the entire procedure from basically start to finish, tuning the carbs and everything. The problem I had when doing it was the float, and so didn't explain that on that video, but I linked to this secondary video here that I'm doing right now. And the problem with the float is that there's a specification for this gap here. Let me get it. So the specification for the gap in between the float and the lid here, and it's supposed to be 1/8 of an inch. There's a tolerance, I think it's plus or minus a 1/16. And so what I was finding is that with this old style float here that has this plastic joint where it meets the pin here, the float pin goes through back here, and then it just feeds through this piece of plastic that's attached directly, or it's one piece actually, with the float chamber. And so there's no way that I can see to adjust this height here with this style of float. Now you could get some spacers, I guess, and put them underneath the needle seat to raise the needle seat up, which would raise the needle up, which would change this float height. But I didn't see anywhere where anybody sold any spacers that would fit inside here. I could go to try to find a washer that's the right size and guess, but they actually make a kit for this purpose. It's this stay-up float, and it's this new style float, which is one piece. It's got this metal anchor point for that pin, and this isn't hollow, so this old one is basically hollow. If you got a puncture in here, that'll fill with fuel, and then you're got to replace it. But this one is a solid, what I've researched is kind of a solid material that just floats on its own. And so I'm going to replace this float with the new float, and this one will allow, since this piece is metal down here, it'll allow me to bend this ever so slightly to get the 1/8 of an inch clearance that I need. So first things first, I'll take off this old gasket. The kit comes with a new gasket, and if you're curious, this stay-up float kit has a part number, WZX1304. I had to buy this one from the UK because I could not find a distributor in the US for it, or at least a distributor in the US that wasn't trying to charge me an arm and a leg for it. So, okay, you take your pliers, find the serrated end. I'm going to turn it around, and then basically grab a hold of that pin and try to work it out of its spot there. There you go. And so here's that pin, and there's what it looks like. Don't tip the float bowl top upside down now, because the needle will fall out. The needle's in there. And here's the old float. versus the new float. And they weigh, as far as I can tell, about the same. And so what you do is, now it's a pretty easy process. You basically line up the holes on that new one. You take your pin and you put it through reverse of how you took it out. Basically just push it into place there. The pin is long enough so that when the chamber is attached, the pin won't come out because it'll hit the pot. So it should just kind of press into place. It's kind of a little sticky. The clearance isn't that much, so it's not gonna fall out if you tip it. It should stay in. And so that will now show you a much different clearance there. My last one, I just got a set of feeler gauges to figure out how much clearance I had, and my last one I had about which one was it? 0.035 inches. And of course it's supposed to be 0.125 inches. And so I basically got enough feelers here, and you'll see that right now there's too much clearance. I got too much room, so I basically just need to bend that piece of metal down. Basically, I just used some needle nose pliers, and just the slightest bit of pressure will bend it. So you don't need a ton. You basically just put that in there and then give it a little bit of pressure and bend it, and then go back and check with your feeler to see if you got the right amount of clearance. That's really close. So that's about right there, 1/8 of an inch. And so now I can reinstall this and my float level will be correct. And the reason you want the float level to be correct is because obviously the liquid, gravity will level the liquid across both the jet and the float. So you want this to be the proper level so that you're not overflowing the jet. Okay, now you put the float back into the chamber, the bowl, line it up with the way it came off. Basically, make sure all the hoses are gonna reconnect. And then you'll put your screws back in. And I'll put the screw in with the ID tag here. I've been told that it goes on the outboard from the carbs, so that's where I'll put it. Then you reconnect the fuel hoses. And you tighten down their clamps.